1, because it's a new support vessel, is an orientation mission only. There are no mission specialists, there are no guests, there are no paying ticket holders on this mission. It's 8 days, May 11th to May 19th. 2 days transit to the wreck site, 4 days over the Titanic wreck. New support vessel. 2 days back. That is going to be the general schedule all summer. Mission 1 of as many as they can get in while they have this contract with a support vessel. So during this mission, all they do is training, walkthroughs, and orientate everyone with the procedures of how they're going to conduct these operations. They return to port, and on May 20th, they go on mission 2. This one does have some mission specialists, and they're going to actually make dives now. So on May 22nd, they're conducting an unmanned dive. This is dive 84 technically, but it's just to 8 meters. And the idea here is to submerge it and make sure that it works, there are no problems, and surface it again. On May 24th, just a couple days later, there is a storm with high sea state. And in the morning, they look out behind the ship on the tow line and they see this. The Lars platform is partially sunk, presumably due to loss of variable ballast or some sort of damage. It's not clear, but there is damage to the Lars platform and it is still neutrally or slightly positively buoyant, holding up part of the Titan. They're very lucky they didn't lose the whole thing right there. So on May 27th, after they've done some repairs to everything, the Lars and the Titan, they conduct a post-incident test dive, and they record that there are still 13 equipment issues requiring correction. They return to port. Mission 2 is over. Mission 3 starts the very next day. They don't take any time in port to repair anything. Everything is being done with the assistance of the support ship, with the Lars in tow. So on May 29th, they proceed out and do more checks after that May 24th incident. They complete a dive on May 30th, and for whatever reason, there is no log of this dive. So on May 31st, they complete dive 85, again to just 10 meters. They're submerging the launch and recovery skiff under the water. They're taking the Titan that's bolted to it, unbolting it. It's getting off the platform. It's swimming around, diving to about 33 feet, 35 feet, and then coming back to the skiff, doing launch and recovery operations to make sure that they can do that correctly and safely. On June 5th, the next, a couple days later, they do complete dive 86 with 3 mission specialists on board. So despite all these incidents and equipment failures and corrections, they now have people on board and they're going down to the Titanic. Now, mission 4 is another 8-day period coming up with no breaks. They go back to port. They come back for mission 4 on June 7th. June 7th, they have to alter the plan because there's bad weather over the Titanic site. So they instead transit northwest of the site. So they're not over the Titanic at all for this 8-day period, where they do conduct dive 87. 87, the Titanic experiences partial failure of the variable ballast system. Variable ballast is very important because the Titan submersible uses that system to keep itself level. Without that, you could have a angle down, an angle up. You could be listed 90 degrees left or right. You know, you need your variable ballast to keep yourself steady and straight. So that system partially fails, and the Titan is stuck in a 45-degree up angle, and it's not attached to the launch and recovery skiff, but it has to come in and land on it like that. And it takes them about an hour to land on the skiff, divers in the water, bolting the thing down, trying to raise the platform positively so that the Titan gets flat and they can mechanically attach it so it's safely secured as the sea state is knocking it around for about an hour. So the people inside and all the equipment are being jostled around for about an hour as this is going on. But we got a mission to do, boys. So they go back to port, drop those people off, conduct inspections, presumably, even though it's not stated clearly, and Mission 5 begins. Mission 5 is the one where the tragedy happens. Now, the Polar Prince, to review here has 17 crew on board, including the captain. The captain's often called the master. That's just a nautical term. I'll be calling him the captain for ease of communication here. There are 24 clients of the Polar Prince from OceanGate that include 4 mission specialists, presume that those are the paying customers, and 2 mission specialist companions. Was not aware that they could bring guests, but apparently there's a +1 policy in the OceanGate Titan experience. So according to the Polar Prince deck log, after departing, they would tow the skiff, the Lars, about 250 meters astern, and then once they got out to sea, they would extend that a little bit farther back. During the transit, so it's June 17th, the day after they leave port, they're coming, the next day is going to be the day on site. They conduct training with all hands. They go over the dive procedure, and they have lunch and dinner together between these training sessions. So everyone from the mission side, the mission specialist side, is getting acquainted with emergency procedures and how to get in and out of the submarine and what to expect during the whole experience. Now, the day of the mission, June 18th, begins very early. 0500, everyone's up, they're getting dressed, ready to go, but we're going to begin at the time of the actual dive, which is 9:14 a.m. in the morning, when the Polar Prince, according to the deck log of the support ship, the Titan disengages from the submerged Lars platform, which is right below the surface, and it begins to proceed with 5 people on board down to the wreck site. About 4 minutes later, there is a text communication, which is the primary means of communication between the team, the OceanGate team on board the support vessel and the Titan. And it's a communication check, which is just the letter K. The Titan responds with letter K. So everything so far is going fine in terms of communication. There are 3 modems on board, I should point out at this point. These acoustic modems provide data between the 2 vessels. So one is text communication. The other 2 are like positioning communication. One is a pinger, which makes a literal ping, and that gives location, bearing, range, depth data to the surface vessel. And you can also do that both ways. When you ping, both vessels will see where they are relative to each other. And there's also a third one. So 3 acoustic modems are communicating between the two vessels. So communications continue with some interruptions, but no real abort problems, or there's no failures requiring an abort until 10:47, some 90 minutes or so later, when they get a text on the surface from the Titan that says dropped 2 weights. So drop 2 weights at that type of depth with this type of submersible could be part of the procedure, where to slow their descent before they hit the bottom, they drop a little bit of weight to slow them down. That could be what this is. Or it could be that they have a problem some 300 meters above the Titan or Titanic wreck site, and they don't even see the bottom yet, and they're trying to lose weight right now for some reason. It's not clear, because we don't have the actual dive procedures to review dropping these 2 weights 90 minutes into the dive, if this is normal or not. Some 6 seconds later, that pinger I told you about, completely lost. So now they have no communication with the Titan at all as of 10:47 a.m. local time with the Titan. Now, I would like to review what that looks like with the actual text log. This is again provided by the U.S. Coast Guard. The inquiry hearing at the top, we have the support vessel, Polar Prince. The green line with the little white dot is the submersible going down to the Titanic behind me here. Now, here we can see that the text messaging doesn't have any kind of autocorrect whatsoever. It says, Polar Prince, PP, I have tracking, but they misspell it. It's fine. Titan says descending through 235. They mean 235 meters, and PP responds again with the correct spelling, I have tracking. So everything is working right now. 3 acoustic modems working, text chat is working, Titan says yay, and then the AA means acknowledge, acknowledge, acknowledge. Both positions are acknowledging. All the systems are working right now through 242 meters. Now, at 9:25 a.m., descending through 461 meters, we're getting deeper and deeper here, Titan says no ATM are you on? That's an acoustic modem. That's a positioning device, a communication device. Polar Prince texts back, the acoustic modem, the ATM, is on. So PP says, do not read you on my ATM either. Titan simply acknowledges that. They just acknowledge that their positioning, one of their three modems that communicates position, has had some sort of failure. It doesn't work at the moment. Could be conditions. They might have descended through a very strong acoustic layer, would be a very realistic possibility here. They do expect one of the three modems to not have the range to communicate after a depth of 1,000 meters. But they're not even halfway there yet, and they've lost one of the three. Probably the one that they expected to lose communication with, around 1,000, has lost it much earlier. That tells me that this was a strong acoustic layer environment or a mechanical failure of the component itself. This is problematic. For the next 35 to 40 minutes as they descend to the Titanic, the Polar Prince repeatedly asks, do you see Polar Prince on the display? And there is no response at all. This should be considered a loss of communication. However, they continue to ask the question via text as the Titan continues descent. Keep in mind, there's still a pinger on board, and they can see the descent of the Titan as this is going on. So they've lost one positioning acoustic modem. They've lost the ability to talk via text, and they now have a pinger that they're just listening to descend towards the Titanic for over half an hour now. Finally, they get a response. Polar Prince says, I need better comms from you. Respond to our text if you can. Titan says yes, as in of course, but then they explain, we've lost system and chat settings. So we don't know exactly what that means. Did they have to reboot their PC and wait for it to reboot and then come back online for acoustic chat? We don't know. I'm purely speculating there. Finally, Titan says, this is PH. That's Paul Henry, an absolute legend in deep diving submersible community. He is a very experienced submariner, and he's on board now, and he's in charge of the communication. Presumably, it was not PH before because he identified himself now at 2,200 meters in depth after an acoustic communication failure for some 30 minutes. So, Polar Prince, text, acknowledge, status, question mark. Do you see Polar Prince on your display so you know your orientation to the support vessel on the surface? The only answer is he repeats, this is PH, this is Paul Henry, as if he didn't even see the question. So communications appear to be intermittent at best at a depth of 2,200 meters, with one acoustic communication failure already. All they have really is the pinger at this point. Finally, some 90 minutes into the dive total, at a depth of 3,346 meters, they drop two weights, and that's what they say via text. The pressure is now at 4,900 psi. And that's where they lose communication. Some 6 seconds later, they lose the pinger. The very last form of acoustic modem communication is completely lost some 6 seconds later. So they go into loss of communication procedures. At 11:15, they inform the captain of the Polar Prince that they lost communication at 10:49 and 50 seconds. And so now they're breaking out the manuals. They're seeing what they're going to do. They're assuming that Titan will perform loss of communication aboard of mission and begin ascending back to the surface at a rate of about 2 meters per second. If they begin this operation now, they will be at the surface around 3 p.m. local time. Their scheduled surface for a full dive with no problems is 6 p.m. There's a 3-hour window there that they're not exactly sure what Titan's going to do because they have the customers on board. So finally, Titan doesn't surface at 3 p.m. So according to their procedure, OceanGate's procedure, they use the Polar Prince to begin a grid search pattern around the expected surface position point to begin looking for a surfaced or partially surfaced Titan till 6 p.m. They do not find it. So at 6:27, They have a meeting with the captain of the Polar Prince support vessel in his cabin and say, we've lost communication with the Titan. Recommend that we go into a search and rescue with the U.S. Coast Guard or the Canadian Coast Guard. One of the OceanGate staff says that they've used the satellite phone to call Halifax, Canadian Coast Guard, for search and rescue procedures and let's commence finding these people. They were redirected to the Boston, United States Coast Guard office for that because the Boston U.S. Coast Guard office is responsible for search and rescue over the Titanic site. So at 7:10 p.m., the OceanGate's crew goes through their procedures and they contact the Canadian Coast Guard because they're operating out of Nova Scotia, but the Halifax office is where the Canadian Coast Guard is out of. And they tell them to contact the Boston U.S. Coast Guard Center. And at 7:10, the U.S. Coast Guard begins to get involved with Phase 4 distress operations. Luckily, they were able to get another ship on site within a few days that had deep submergence remote operating vehicle or ROVs on board that can get down to the Titanic's depth. And they begin searching for stranded submersible or wreckage, and this is what that ROV finds. They find what appears to be the forward dome, the forward titanium dome, laying on the ocean floor near the Titanic. Just by itself. Nothing else with it, just a partial. But there's been a clear breach of watertight integrity at this point. They don't have to look far, though, to find the end cap. This is the free flood area that's outside the pressure vessel itself, just aft of where the 5 people would sit in the center of that carbon fiber tube. This was apparently detached at some point and is sitting, nose down with the rear end sticking up out of the sand there. You can see the components and the amphenols completely just ripped off. And finally, this is the rest of the Titan. This is the actual carbon fiber pressure vessel. You can see the aft dome there with the carbon fiber compressed, shattered, if you will, and pushed into.
So, originally I was very hesitant to make this video. I was worried I might be seen as a traitor to the art community, since I seem to be such an outlier in my opinions against Webtoon. Seriously, there are few and far people who are actually talking about how terrible Webtoon is for artists. I have been posting comics on Webtoon since 2018, with little to no success. I've been reading many popular webcomics since 2017, and have been noticing just how Webtoon caters to one audience, doesn't care about its creators, promotes terrible ideology to its readers, and manages to sweep it all under the rug and keep most, if not all, of its terrible practices out of public eye. Let's begin with the Asian financial crisis in 1997. Most people could only afford to rent rather than buy comics at the time. Over 200,000 Korean comics were being published annually, with 80% of those copies actually being sold. In 1998, the comic industry ended its censorship of Japanese manga, meaning with the flooding in the market, the Korean comic sales plummeted to 20% of the copies actually being sold. In the same period, the internet was becoming a large source of entertainment as well, being an aid in the plummeting sales of manga at the time. Many took to the internet to post their short forms of comics, and in 2004, Webtoon was founded by Yoon-ko Kim and launched by the Naver Corporation. Webtoons was officially released globally in 2014. Now that we all know what Webtoons is and how it came to be, let's talk about the audience it caters to, romantics. The romance genre is a $1.8 billion industry that is well above other genres. Webtoon pushes its romance comics more than its other series, and with good reason. Romance sells. Webtoon is a company, so of course they are going to do what's financially best for itself. Speaking from personal experience, one of my only successful webcomics was a romance based on true events, and it has been the only successful webcomic in my repertoire. In an article published by Curious, Why Do People Read More Romance Novels?, the article states that nearly 50% of romance readers blast through at least one book per week. Some readers are absorbing 4 to 5 books every couple of days. So, as a platform where your main goal is to get readers to keep coming back for more, or to spend money to get early access to future episodes, it's the only logical thing to push the romance-based comics, and get the young audience hooked and returning for more, or better yet for Webtoons, spending money to get more. It's why Webtoons continues to push comics like Lore Olympus, True Beauty, Down to Earth, and probably the most infamous, Boyfriends, because that's what sells, that's what brings in the viewers, and most importantly, that's what brings in the money. All of the previously mentioned webcomics have an incredible reach to the public because they are all romances that appeal to Webtoons' main viewer base, whether the premise of the comic is good or bad. So now that we're aware of the fact that Webtoons really likes money, but to be fair, what company doesn't, this plays into the favoritism that Webtoons shows its creators that bring in the views and monetary value, such as the aforementioned comics. But how does it treat its other original creators? The platform essentially allows any creator to post their comic for free under the title Canvas, with the promise that if the comic garnered enough viewers and attention, the comic then can be offered the title Original, which means the artist is now under contract to Webtoon and gets paid. Keep in mind, all Webtoon original creators are paid by Webtoon. I took to Reddit in search of how Webtoon original creators feel about their treatment, and their takes on Webtoon are less than stellar. Most make mention of the burnout, loss of creative control over their series, and complete lack of help over promotion of their series from the very site that claims to give them a hand in the first place. The burnout most creators experience is from the pressure to perform. Webtoon originals have to have a minimum of 40 to 60 panels and are paid a flat rate, so if you draw more panels, you won't make more money from it. You are also expected to keep busting out these episodes each week. Now, some original creators do have help from a team, but most do not have that advantage. Creators also lose a lot of control over their characters' personalities, so that Webtoon can have an easier time marketing to its user base. This is something a lot of creators specifically do not want to hand over. This is also why so many of the most popular comics we see and read have the same ultra-feminine main character and dark, mysterious, handsome love interest. This is also why comics like Boyfriends got so much attention from the general public. The characters are only the stereotypes they portray, making marketing for Webtoon much easier. Creators have planned out arcs and traits they want to portray in their story, and for Webtoon to take that away from them in the name of public appeal is a direct betrayal of its creators and the artistic freedom Webtoon claims to offer. Some might argue that characters need a revamp, but to that I ask, why would Webtoon offer a deal to the creators if they don't like the story to begin with? There are plenty of outliers that go against the Webtoon norms, but those stories always end prematurely, or are a direct result of Webtoon turning its back on the very artists they claim to be helping. The site will deliberately skimp on advertisements for the lower flow original creators over comics that bring in more views, essentially crippling the low flow creators from the start, and forcing ends to comics that don't bring in the views. Webtoon has slacked a lot at promoting new originals and always end up going back to the same few series that frankly don't need any more promotion. For example, Lore Olympus, Let's Play, and Unordinary. Favoritism is real, and at the end of the day, Webtoon is a business, and you can't count on them to market for each of its creators. And this also means you may not have the reach you'd expect from moving to originals like Webtoon claims. In some cases, Webtoon has been known to ghost its creators or directly ignore their contracts of its creators, though this fact is basically Webtoon's word against the creator's word. Let's get into what this means for the other half of Webtoon creators, the Canvas creators. This is where I, as well as many artists, reside, and this part of Canvas is the part I know a lot about as a creator. I have seen time and time again many talented artists passed over by Webtoon and many of its users. But why is this? It inspired me to do a deep dive into the problem a lot of us have dealt with or are dealing with firsthand. Quite frequently, the Passover can be explained away by not posting enough each week, having chapters that are too short, art or a story that is unappealing, or maybe even not having enough chapters at the time. But what about if you've met all the criteria for these things and you're still not getting any type of engagement? The cold hard truth is that you might just not be a right fit for Webtoon. Something I discovered is that some stories, characters, or genres are just unmarketable in Webtoon's eyes. They would rather have an easier time marketing a romance to its readers than a mystery or a historical. Don't be fooled. They will market a few comics in the outlying genres, but never enough. If you go to the genres section of Webtoon, the subjects mystery, sports, historical, heartwarming, horror, and informative are all combined under a section labeled Other. So potentially if you're having trouble getting the attention of Webtoon, you might not be labeling your comics the right way. With that, as well as not having characters that are marketable in Webtoon's eyes, might definitely hinder an otherwise talented artist and storyteller. The message is loud and clear. Webtoon doesn't care about you. Not unless you have something to offer them. And to be fair, some artists are perfectly happy with the level of engagement on the Canvas page, but there are still plenty of other hard-working artists who someday want to catch the eyes of Webtoon. You might have heard about the controversial advertisement Webtoon proudly displayed until it started to garner much backlash. The ad reads, "Comics are literature's fun side hustle." It is really a spit in the face to all of its creators who work tirelessly to put their work on the site and bring views through their own advertisement. I myself was working 40 to 60 hours a week on top of a job and was still doing it for free while Webtoon gets the perks out of the engagement my comic brought to the site. Artists already have to prove themselves worthy of their opponents. They don't need Webtoon belittling the work that is posted on its own site. Webtoon later issued an apology for their short-sightedness. It really tells you that they care about all of the creators that personally drive engagement to the site in the first place. Let's move on to the most controversial and perhaps subjective issue with Webtoon. This site promotes inappropriate and predatory ideology onto its readers. To start with, 64% of Webtoon's readers are all under the age of 24, with kids as low as 10 years old tuning in for each week's episode of their favorite comics. Webtoon has, in the past, promoted comics with borderline predatory relationships, babysitter-child relationships, and unrelatable role models. These promotion feeds are the same for everyone, rather than having an individual feed based on one person's interests. It's completely unethical for Webtoon to be promoting these behaviors as if they're normal. It's not a matter of if readers can understand right or wrong, it's a matter of Webtoon promoting these comics with inappropriate ideologies. I would like to again reference my own comic Vinegar. In Vinegar, I used examples from my life about red flags in a relationship I was in a way to exhibit toxic traits in relationships that are lesser known. And for a majority of my comic, most if not all of my commenters were very happy with the state of the main character and her love interest, completely missing the fact that my comic was meant to exhibit negative behaviors for a love interest to show. Vinegar was not only based on true events, but was also a very grounded story, leaving nothing to be interpreted differently. So, with my comic that is meant to help readers aware of potential threats, and readers ignoring the threats just as the main character had, they might be in danger of the predatory ways Webtoon promotes and advertises inappropriate comics to its younger viewers. This ties into the popular question, do violent video games make the player violent? Numerous studies show no correlation between the two. So, in turn, why would harmful subject matter of comics be harmful to the people who read them? In an article, Media Effects on Attitudes, Values, Beliefs, it states, an abundance of research has provided evidence that entertainment media can have important effects on attitudes, values, and beliefs of an audience member. In many respects, these effects operate in much the same way as the effects noted from persuasive media, such as news media. However, the observed effects of entertainment media consumption may best be understood as unintended effects, in the same sense that these media do not necessarily intend to persuade or inform. So, if the Webtoon audience reads at the very least one or more of these harmful comics, it's not completely out of the question that they are getting the wrong message from parts of these media, unintended or not. So, is it up to the creators, who most times have a subjective idea of good or bad, to watch out for their young readers? Absolutely not. I think it's unfair for creators to take care of their audience in this instance. Everyone has a different moral compass. It shouldn't be left up to an individual who might have a skewed moral compass to protect the readers that come from the site. It's up to the platform that connects its young readers to these comics and try and protect them. As creators, we have no knowledge of our audience's age on Webtoon. The only thing we can do is put an age restriction on our comics in hopes that the correct age will read them. Unfortunately, it's up to Webtoon to take charge of the situation and protect its main audience, and unfortunately, Webtoon doesn't care. You might be wondering how I found this information, and let me tell you, it takes an absurd amount of digging, which leads me to my final point of why Webtoon isn't as great as everyone says. They sweep every wrongdoing of their own under the rug and do everything in their power to keep any ill practices out of public eye. There are many stories of artists who accepted an original offer from Webtoon, and when they couldn't bring in the numbers that Webtoon had hoped for, their work was no longer heavily promoted, or they were ghosted, or the contract Webtoon created was ignored. And it's so easy for Webtoon to do this because the amount of money it takes to sue a company in another country as a struggling artist is immeasurable. Aside from the previously mentioned inappropriate ad, Webtoon has had no negative consequences for its actions. So many artists on the Canvas page continuously hold out hope that they might get offered a contract from Webtoon so that they can make a little bit of money doing what they love, and are ignored for many reasons. But they don't want to bite a hand that might feed them, so they continue on, redrawing their first episodes of their comics, posting regularly, pouring love for art into the comic, thinking that their time might come, when in reality, it's all a money game for Webtoon. I realized something while I was researching for this. I am completely and utterly unmarketable to Webtoon. My main focus is in historical dramas with a little bit of romance. It's never my first genre. My characters aren't the typical characters that are pushed in Webtoon. And after the last 4 years, I finally figured it out. Some stories are unmarketable to Webtoon, and they will never see you as a benefit. They will never offer you a contract or help give you a platform. It's a hard pill to swallow for me, especially when I thought I had been doing everything right and devoting myself to my art like so many other artists before me have been doing. And the real question for creators is, where do we go from here? Webtoon is a site that clearly holds the quantity of readers as well as financial gain above its actual creators. Are you okay with the site as a whole? Or maybe you're a little bit miffed at the horrible condition Webtoon decides to treat its creators? The site has loudly and clearly stated with its actions that they do not care about the very people who bring readers to the site in the first place. They have no interest in helping its young viewers navigate the oversaturated app. As long as they keep seeing monetary gain from its viewers, they will keep doing what they are doing, further hurting the community it's built upon. And I want no part of it. I've been with Webtoon as a reader and as a creator since 2017, 3 years after it was released globally. I know firsthand how Webtoon has been treating its users. As an artist, I don't want to become marketable for a site that doesn't care about me unless I have something more than my art or a story to offer them. I can't in my right mind give up my characters or stories in the name of public appeal. I don't want to be part of a company, paid or not, that treats its creators in the horrible manner it's displayed. As someone who takes her work somewhat seriously, I refuse to be trampled on by a site that claims they do the exact opposite. You can often fix something that's been broken, but you can't fix something that never worked in the first place. Alright. Hello, welcome to my channel. I'm Maddie, and I have a very special treat.
Is everything okay, babe?
The Dragon King's Bride, Webtoon's only comic where one of the main plot points is whether or not you can survive hardcore dragon sex. I'm being dead serious. That is genuinely a plot point, if not the only plot point in the entire comic. If I'm being real here for a minute, this has been one of the craziest things I think I have ever read on Webtoon. Everything from the dialogue to the hilariously out of place 3D models to the actions characters take will make your head spin. The artist even warned in their notes section of the first episode that it was going to be a wild ride, but oh, how little did I assume they would actually be telling the truth. We open with members. 2. She's the spawn of the kingdom's most favorite prostitute. 3. She has white hair and is therefore prettier than her evil stepmother. Or 4. She has dragon blood in her veins. I'll give you some time to think. Go on. It's easy. If you guess 2, she's the spawn of the kingdom's favorite prostitute, you are correct! Which I wasn't sure was even a thing that happened in real life. Commenters, comment your favorite prostitute. In other words, Lucina is a bastard child. Aside from that, she's just the most perfect and precious tiny little thing in the whole wide world. Anyways, Lucina is running away from her evil stepfamily and she stumbles across a hurt dragon in the forest. Seeing the creature in need, she uses her healing powers, because of course she has healing powers, and saves the dragon from certain death. After she faints from overuse of her power, we see the dragon transform into a Dragon Man, and he thinks to himself about how brave this little girl is and takes her back to the town square, thinking that surely someone must be looking for this 10-year-old little girl. The Dragon Man, who we learn is named Hakan, leaves her in the town square and flies back home.
It's like How to Train Your Dragon, but if they
Lucina never tries to escape from her evil stepfamily after this incident, so now, 10 years later, we open with evil handmaidens preparing Lucina for a wedding to a fat old guy! You know what would be kinda crazy? I've been reading a lot of webcomics in this genre lately, and the pretty young, pure of heart heroine always seem to get married to a big, fat, ugly, rich guy. But wouldn't it be so much more interesting to have the mean, arranged marriage guy be good looking? I feel like so many of these comics end up villainizing people for committing the heinous crime of not being attractive? What are you in for?
I sold drugs to preschoolers and stole stamps from the elderly.
That's terrible.
What did you do?
I'm ugly.
What? Why did they put a guy like you in here? I don't want to get you ugly! Get it off! Get it off! No!
I feel like you're wasting a lot of potential story here. You're just throwing in a weird obstacle that no one ever actually thinks is gonna be a problem for our protagonist. If the story opened with Lucina getting arranged to a conventionally attractive but kinda mean guy, it'd leave me wondering where the story was gonna go. Is she gonna try to get out of the marriage? Is she gonna go along with it and slowly regret not doing anything to stop it? Is she gonna warm up to him and realize that he's not actually that bad? Or even have him realize through our protagonist that he's kind of a dick and have him warm up to her. Or hell, even give us an ugly guy who's really nice. Have our protagonist think, oh no, I'm getting arranged married to an ugly blob man. and hate it, but then as the story goes on, realize that his external appearance has no actual bearing on him as a person. I had a roommate in college who was dating a guy who was shorter than her. I was also dating Jonah, who is shorter than me. We love our short kings. Mwah. And my roommate eventually broke up with him because he was shorter than her. And when she started having doubts about doing so, she asked me how I dealt with Jonah being shorter than me. And I told her I liked Jonah. He's nice, he's caring and respectful. And if I hadn't given him a chance, then that would be pretty shallow of me, wouldn't it? She then got back with her boyfriend to prove, in fact, she was not shallow, only to break up with him again a few weeks later. That little blob story from my life has more twists and turns about marriage and relationships than any of these generic-ass webtoon romance comics I've read recently. What I'm basically trying to say is more of these stories should take notes from Shrek 2. Ugly people do not equal bad, pretty people do not equal good. And while I'm not saying you shouldn't write a story with an ugly evil person, I think it'd be a hell of a lot more interesting to give the unconventionally attractive person a chance. So, Lucina is getting prepared. And then we see her evil stepbrother, don't ask me his name, I literally did not learn it, walking in proudly proclaiming to his mother that he went out and robbed some ancient Terrarian burial grounds. You know, I'd make a joke, but I think the English have this one pretty covered. His evil mother, again, don't bother learning her name, it doesn't matter, starts yelling at him about how stupid he is for doing that. And then their castle gets invaded by the Teyar tribe. Who is the Teyar tribe, you might ask? Well, the Teyar tribe is a famously uncivilized tribe full of dragon people, such as Hakan, who we saw earlier. The tribe is well known for being very brutal and aggressive towards outsiders, especially those who rob their burial grounds. Now, some of the Teyar can turn into dragons, like we see Hakan do earlier in the story. That said, it quickly becomes very confusing who in the Teyar tribe can and cannot turn into a dragon. We only really see Hakan turn into a dragon, which initially made me think only royalty can transform, but during the epic battle scenes, we also see other dragons there. So are those other dragons also people, or are they just pet dragons? We're never shown that reverting to their true forms is energy depleting or anything, so I don't understand why we rarely see other dragons. I know if I could turn into a sexy 3D dragon model, it would be my main party trick. So where the heck are the dragons from this dragon tribe? It may seem like a bit of a nitpick, but when the story is about dragon people, it would be nice if I had any idea of how the dragon people actually worked. So the Teyar tribe attack the castle Lucina and her evil stepfamily live in. They brutally slaughter all of the guards and most of the people, and Lucina and some of her stepfamily are brought to the leader of the attack, who we'll recognize as Hakan. In order to have their lives spared, the evil stepmother offers Lucina as a bride to Hakan. Lucina reminds him of the little girl he met 10 years ago, and that memory of a little girl makes him decide to go ahead and marry Lucina. Don't worry, the whole thing was consensual on Lucina's part. If she said no, then she'd be murdered. You know, consensual. This is our sympathetic male lead, guys.
We stand a consensual king!
Hakan, the most relatable and likable love interest, even tries to have a wedding ceremony based on her customs. He has his army men go and pick flowers outside of the currently burning castle with beheaded heads dangling from walls and forces the priest guy to wed them. Aw, he's a romantic. What a nice guy learning his wife's marital customs.
Meanwhile,
Lucina is so terrified that she faints before the pair can kiss, and the chapter ends with everyone riding off and Lucina's evil stepmother telling her son that they need to get Lucina back in order to marry her off to the fat, ugly, evil man. Don't worry, guys, this plotline doesn't go anywhere for too long, so you can forget about it like I did after a certain chapter. So the Teyarians travel back home, and we learn things about our main character. Sad things. Bad things. She is the female lead in a webtoon after all. She can't have possibly had one good moment of happiness in her life. Hakan finds out she likes to eat food, specifically Subway sandwiches. The art for the food doesn't even look bad. It's actually really well done. It just stood out so much from everything that was happening that even the commenters were joking about it. All of it tastes so good, from the smoked fish to the vegetables inside. And all for only $6 for 6 inches.
Subway, brought to you from some random dragon dude who killed your family. And pedophiles.
Then he makes a joke about sleeping with Lucina, since it is their wedding night after all, and Lucina straight up breaks down into tears over the very notion of it. Then Hakan tries to frantically tell her not to worry, he was just following her customs again. He leaves saying, "Don't worry, I won't do anything to you."
You're a good guy, Gary.
My guy, I think you've actually done enough. Kidnapping and forced marriage aren't exactly stellar ways of meeting chicks these days. If there's anything that makes me not think a man is going to do anything nefarious to me, it's definitely not the man telling me out of the blue he won't do anything nefarious to me.
Why, hey there. No, don't worry. I'm not gonna steal $20 from your wallet.
Well, I wasn't worried before.
No. I said I wasn't going to take it.
Well, you see, now I don't believe you.
But I said I wouldn't.
Yeah, but that was kind of out of the blue, and you're eyeing my wallet pretty hard, so...
Why don't you believe me?
That being said, I have a note for this panel specifically that says, what is his hair care routine? I also want luscious locks. And that still stands. Hakan, if you want to put out a shampoo and conditioner line, I will be your first customer. So then a magical exposition fairy appears to have us learn about Lucina and her backstory. I am dead serious. There is a magical exposition fairy named Puka that occasionally shows up to talk to Lucina, usually do nothing but spurt random nonsense and then leave. Puka just kind of appears at Lucina's side to tell her information about her magical healing powers, who she should trust, as well as reiterating information everyone, including readers, already know. One of the first times this happens is when Puka says Lucina was quiet. Then Lucina tells Puka she has trouble speaking. Then, a few panels later, Hakan resolves a misunderstanding between her and his army guys, declaring that she must have difficulty speaking to people. And for my notes, I just wrote down, do you guys think she has difficulty speaking to people? It reminds me of when I was 12 and first started writing. I didn't understand that there were ways of communicating information to a reader other than just telling people exactly what, when, where, why, and how a character was doing something. Kitty left the house and drove back to town. She stopped at the local send-a-note. She walked inside the send-a-note. She looked for some envelopes. I'm sorry. She looked for some envelopes, but she could not find any. So she walked up to the clerk. "Where are the envelopes?" she asked.
Oh, we put them at our desks.
He said. "Can I have 3?" she asked. "And 3 stamps?"
Yes, that will be $2.36.
The clerk said. Kitty paid the clerk. She put the pictures in an envelope and wrote it out to Mr. Clark's house. The clerk put a stamp on the envelope and put it in a box full of other envelopes. Kitty left the send-a-note. The letter should get to Mr. Clark's house around 3 p.m. The entire comic feels exactly like that, repeating ideas, thoughts, actions, reiterating what everyone, including the audience, already knows, making it hilariously ridiculous to try and read, let alone take seriously. Lucina also gets kidnapped in the span of the time where everyone was traveling back to the Tayar Kingdom. Her evil stepfamily had sent out mercenaries after her. Hey, you know those guys that just kicked our asses and burnt our castle to the ground, and the only way we got rid of them was by selling our daughter we hate? Let's break our deal with them! But then the mercenaries swiftly get caught and murdered for kidnapping Lucina.
I will not let you destroy my world!
This is where we get the first line of Hakan telling her to close her eyes while he straight up beheads someone! Now you might be thinking, did you just say first? Yes, there is not 1, not 2, but 3 scenes where Hakan does this! And Lucina, rather than, reacting to this how a normal person would, thinks to herself about how safe she feels being with Hakan.
He's so quirky.
Oh my gosh. Hakan kidnapped you. Hakan forced you to marry him. Hakan just beheaded a dude who also kidnapped you. And you're thinking you feel safe with him?
I can change him.
Oh my god! I'm left so speechless for most of this comic. It's so baffling. The crazy thing is that this is a running theme for most of the comic too. Lucina will remark about how safe she feels with Hakan one minute, and then when she feels she's in danger, will beg and plead for him not to hit her. I actually have experience with writing and drawing comics about an abusive relationship. While there are definitely parts I wish I could go back and change, I made it clear that this was never a good thing to begin with. But when I take a look at comics like The Dragon King's Bride, I don't know how these stories accidentally write some pretty realistic, trauma-driven, abusive relationships while trying to write romance. So eventually we do make it to the Teyar Kingdom. Here Lucina meets Gairet, who used to be the queen of the Teyar tribe. In their world, if the king dies, then the position of king will be transferred to the next male heir, simultaneously making the former queen no longer queen. So when Hakan's brother dies, Gairet loses her queen position when Hakan then takes the king title. Gairet is not too pleased with Lucina since she's been trying to slip into Hakan's dragon-shaped pants since her late husband died. The reason for this being that if you can have a child with a king, you automatically become queen. So with Lucina now threatening Gairet's chances of becoming queen again, Gairet now focuses her ill-intentioned efforts in getting rid of Lucina. It's kind of sad because I don't necessarily disagree with Gairet in wanting to stay queen. Lucina has done nothing to show the Teyar that she is worthy of fulfilling the necessary duties a queen should. Gairet even picks up on this and tells Hakan that Lucina couldn't possibly properly run a kingdom like Gairet had in the past, which is a valid freaking point. Lucina should probably be healing from her own scars and trauma and not think about performing the duties of a kingdom she's never been part of. Gairet really does seem like the better choice here. She has experience, she knows the laws of the land. Gairet is the best option for leading in this case. It's like if someone plucked me out of my home and told me to start running the country of Botswana. Gairet is basically just another dime a dozen female webtoon antagonist who only exists to make the main girl character look good. She's a gold digger. She only married the king for the power she could get. So, gold diggers aren't necessarily morally bad people.
Get that bag, queen.
Yeah, she does end up forcing her sick brother to use black magic for crimes and get rid of her opponents.
Like you do.
But that almost seems like a footnote in comparison to the fact that she's a gold digger. It might have been really cool if we focused more on why she doesn't want to lose her power. Maybe why she feels the need to help properly rule the Teyar kingdom, the life she's grown accustomed to, and why she doesn't want to leave it. But rather, she focuses her evil efforts on bullying Lucina. Her actions make her seem like a dumb middle school mean girl than a smart and powerful femme fatale that the comic tries to make you see her as. One of the things Gairet does is give a really ugly dress to Lucina to wear to the party. Then she orders the bouncer of the party not to let Lucina in if she's not wearing the ugly dress. But when a mysterious old lady offers to help transform the dress from not to hot, the bouncer doesn't let her inside. So Puka, the magical exposition fairy, turns into a bird and shits in the guard's eyes, opening up a space for Lucina to get into the party. When Hakan gets over his boner for how pretty Lucina looks, he questions why she was late to the party. And when the guard tries to tell Hakan he was following Gairet's orders, Gairet lies and the bouncer gets beheaded at the party by Hakan. Not before telling Lucina to turn around, cover her ears, and close her eyes like she's a 10-year-old.
Well, I didn't want to do that, but alas, I had no choice. That bastard lightly grabbed Lucina's arm, for heaven's sake. Good thing despite this, I'll remain sympathetic and likable and believable as a love interest.
No, you're just a crazy serial killer. That's all you are. Nothing more and nothing less.
This entire situation reminds me of when your boss tells you not to give refunds to customers, but then when the customer gets irate enough, your boss throws you under the bus and gives the customer a refund anyway, making you look like the idiots. From here on, most of the story is about Hakan and Lucina's sex life, which is a wild thing to say. We start getting introduced to bits and pieces of information regarding how a dragon king is born. From my point of view, as I was reading, the characters kept alluding to the fact that Lucina was tiny, so if she had sex with Hakan, she would die. And I kept wondering if maybe he was violent during intercourse. But the comic specifically went out of its way to talk about how because Lucina was skinny, she wouldn't survive the night. This same idea was repeated and repeated to the point I thought I was going crazy, because skinny people don't die after having sex. At least, I hope not. But then Guy Rett gives us some much needed context, telling us and Lucina that absorbing the energy of a dragon is so dangerous that women usually die. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. So do I! From what I could gather, the Teyar tribe really value their women because birth/dragon conception is hard. But I'm not sure if only royal blood has dragon energy or if it's a thing everyone has. So regardless of a woman's background, if they can sire a child to the king, they will automatically become queen. So Lucina at first doesn't know this. She and Hakan go to bone each other and he stops because Lucina doesn't understand her literal life is on the line. He gets a little pissed off and leaves her telling to think about what it means to be queen. Nothing like kidnapping a girl, forcing her to get married to you, and then acting all hot and bothered when she doesn't immediately want to die for you and your tribe. Eventually, Lucina does find out about the dragon energy from Guy Rett, but then I genuinely think the artist forgot that she found out, because for the next 20 or so chapters, Hakan is just trying to tell Lucina the truth and getting interrupted. But then, oh no, Lucina finds out and is upset Hakan kept something from her. But this whole time I was really confused because, like, girl, you already knew that. Guy Rett tells her about it in chapter 12, but then her and Hakan have a fight over it in chapter 23. So either this world doesn't experience linear time, the author just forgot, or Lucina is extremely dumb. My vote's for the latter half. Something Dragon King's Bride does is make thought bubbles pretty close to what speech bubbles look like in appearance. And I actually found myself getting caught quite a few times wondering why no one reacted to something someone just said, only to go back and realize, oh, this bubble is slightly lumpy. I guess that means it's a thought bubble. But even then, these artistic rules for bubbles change in every chapter, making things really hard to comprehend. Like, Lucina at one point thinks to herself, I should probably mention I have healing powers. And then Hakan doesn't react, and then she goes to tell him, and this whole time I was like, you just told him and he was fine with it. There is so much, and yet so little I want to talk about regarding this comic. It's genuinely really overwhelming at times. So I guess I should introduce you to the next somewhat important character in the comic, and that is Akar, Hakan's mom, or as we know her, the mysterious seamstress who fixed Lucina's dress a few chapters ago. She's been under the spell of black magic put on her by Guy Rett's brother Gilai. There's a pretty unimportant side plot going on where Akar is senile because of this magic, but I can't take her dire situation seriously because in the first panel we see her in, she is clutching the most awful looking stuffed dinosaur, and I just found it so ridiculously funny. Because I can tell what the comic was trying to go for, but I can't take a bad situation seriously when an elderly senile woman is clutching a stuffed dinosaur. And before you tell me it's normal for adults to have toys, I am already aware of this and I have a huge toy problem. That being said, if you wanted to convey a serious moment, there are are a ton of more effective ways you could have done that. If you wanted Akar to seem childish, have her need help putting her shoes on. Have her talking in a more immature dialogue than the people around her. There's a moment where she kind of loses her mind and stabs her son Hakan, and later she drops the plushie and seemingly comes to her senses and begs the guards to let her apologize to Hakan. So originally, I thought that while she was holding the toy, then she was under the black magic spell, and that would make a lot of sense as to why it looked so out of place, but no. There's genuinely a worse explanation as to why she has this stupid toy. After Akar stabs Hakan, she gets sent to the Valley of Fire, and if she survives for one day, then she can be released. The Valley of Fire is basically like an acre of land that's like really, really hot, but also prison. And no one has ever survived for more than a day, so this is basically like a death sentence. So feeling badly that his black magic got Akar sent to the Valley of Fire, Gairet's brother Gilai enlists the help of Lucina to go and rescue Akar. They figure that with Gilai's magic, he can put the guards to sleep and Lucina can go inside, heal Akar, and give her water, and then she should be able to last the day and get out. But just when everything seems to be going well, the giant troll guardian wakes up and goes to punch Lucina, who closes her eyes, but the blow never comes. Hakan has come to the rescue. Hey, stop. Look at me. This isn't you. This isn't you! Hakan tells Lucina that she shouldn't have tried to release a criminal, and Lucina tells Hakan that he wouldn't have been able to handle it if Akar passed away because of the punishment he gave to her for stabbing him. And then Lucina passes out. Akar hands the stuffed dinosaur to Hakan and tells him to protect it because she thinks Hakan is actually his older brother, and the dinosaur is Hakan. This instantly resolves Hakan's mommy issues because he found out that his mom loved him all along? I'm genuinely so sorry. I'm trying my best to explain everything here, but even I was lost while reading. After this resolve, Akar makes it out of the Valley of Fire, and Hakan tells Lucina that if it weren't for you, I might have accidentally killed my mother. So now that this side plot is over, it's time we get back to the two horniest member of the Teyar tribe. Hakan keeps getting cock-blocked by literal death because Lucina might die if the Dragon Come energy enters her. The audience is blue-balled once again after Hakan tells Lucina that he wants her to be extra healthy so she can have a high chance of survival. So he and Lucina both try celibacy for 2 months, even though they already weren't shagging. Why 2 months, you might ask? I should be at my most potent in 2 months anyways. What the f*** did you just say? So apparently, Hakan has a potent time, much like a woman who has a fertile time, where the chance of successfully having a baby is significantly higher than normal. Basically, for the next few chapters, Hakan walks around like a cat in heat, talking about how hard it is for him to control himself. But Lucina really wants to give him a kiss and share a bed. But Hakan, oh that darn Hakan, just can't control his dragon urges to impregnate Lucina. It gets to the point where he demands he be tied up so he can control himself.
Red flags here!
Let me say it for the ladies in the back. Having to tie up your boyfriend because he can't control himself is not cute and not funny, no matter how much this comic tries to convince you that it is. Hakan eventually winds up breaking his ties and forcing Lucina down before stopping himself and ordering someone to chain him up for the night. But oh, Lucina, she just thinks it's the silliest, goofiest little thing. Kind of makes me rethink him promising not to do anything to her in those first few chapters. Any of my men in the audience, do you hate it when guys are portrayed like this? Because I sure as hell do. There's a conversation between Gilai and Lucina where he asks her why she likes Hakan, and she tells him it's because he calls her pretty and seems to care about her. And then he points out that that's basically the bare minimum, and I just thought it was so silly because, like, he ain't wrong, Chief. So eventually the author realizes they do need a reason for Hakan and Lucina to actually have sex. Hakan is alerted that the Hatchling Fortress is under attack. You know, the Hatchling Fortress where all the babies are presumably stored? It's a lot like the human baby sanctuaries that are around. Hakan rushes off to help aid in the battle, only to find out it's a trap! Being overwhelmed, he gets stabbed. Can you guess where he gets stabbed? Can you get... Okay, so maybe his armor was poorly designed and left one of the most vulnerable parts of his body completely unprotected. But hey, this is a learning experience. Surely after this, he'll start wearing more protective armor, so he'll, actually have a chance at surviving future battles? You know what is so funny about this? The fact that Hakon's older brother, who he respected and looked up to and based his decisions on, was also stabbed in the fucking abs! Why don't you guys have ab armor? Who designed this? What the Hakon goes to the sanctuary, and Lucina rushes to him and goes inside to heal him. But Hakon has reverted back to his true form, and he now looks like the dragon from the beginning of the comic. We as an audience already know he's the same person, but Lucina doesn't know Hakon was that dragon, and Hakon doesn't know that Lucina was that same 10-year-old he fell in love with. But they both figure that out after Lucina heals him. Then when they learn, they're so happy that they go home and have sex. This is probably a side tangent, but the reason I keep pointing out about the age difference between Hakon and Lucina is because the author goes out of their way to prove it's not actually that creepy, with Hakon even telling Lucina he's only 27 in human years while not disclosing how old he is in dragon years, and sure, whatever. But then, when Lucina meets someone who is also older, like way older, but looks super hot and conventionally attractive, then Hakon has an issue. No matter how young he may look, he's several times her age. Hakon? Hakon? Didn't seem to bother you too much, huh, Hakon? Semantics aside, Lucina gets pregnant. Yippee! Because of some magic stuff, she ends up being not able to heal anyone while she's pregnant because her powers are constantly working on keeping her alive. Gyrette then takes the opportunity to try and frame Lucina for a black magic crime Gyrette had originally committed so that she can sleep with Hakon and stay queen. In this life, she and Gilai had used a black candle in order to convince Hakon that Lucina was secretly in love with someone else. Essentially, the black candle, when lit, causes hallucinations when you look or think of someone you love. Except this rule doesn't apply when Hakon is nowhere near the candle. So, what I was trying to explain is when the candle is lit and the smoke gets in his lungs, then he goes crazy, but then he also goes crazy when he's nowhere near the candle and we're not sure if it's even lit. So I don't understand how it works then.
There you go, that's perfect. No,
Perfect. All right. Isn't that a black candle?
You recognized it right away!
This line had me laughing so hard I started choking on my Ritz cracker and I couldn't breathe. Dragon King's Bride nearly killed me to read. Here's where Lucina gets kidnapped for a third time while under house arrest to Gyrette. She then gets pushed down and roughhoused while pregnant, and her life is threatened by her kidnappers, who, under Gyrette's orders, were instructed to kill her. They then get murdered by the comic's fourth set of kidnappers, who turn out to be Lucina's evil stepfamily. Let's take another quick break to play a round of Can You Guess? Can you guess what happens after Lucina's evil stepfamily re-kidnaps her? Do they 1. Get beheaded after Hakon tells Lucina to close her eyes? Do they 2. Get beheaded after Hakon tells Lucina to close her eyes? Do they 3. Get Yeah, this is the third time that exact same thing has happened in this comic. And every time Hakon beheads someone in front of Lucina, Lucina thanks him for it later, telling him it made her feel taken care of. It made her feel safe. They're perfect for each other.
Ladies, get yourself a man who will cut off heads for you.
This entire comic is such a roller coaster of freaking emotions. I don't even know if I've covered all the plot points because most of the comic doesn't actually matter. It's one big clump of event after event and blue balling after blue balling. I might not have liked or wanted the 4 play episode in The Remarried Empress, which I had to read for the Rashta video, but at least fans got exactly what they wanted. It was probably a satisfying conclusion for the fans, but here, I don't even know how to sum up my feelings for this, I gotta be honest. The hilariously out of place 3D assets made me feel like I was tweaking. The artist had to be messing with me. Were they actually taking this seriously, or were they just having fun and getting paid at Webtoon's expense?
Get that bag, queen.
The dialogue was so bad. It was so bad, dudes. They kept saying that Lucina was the one who couldn't talk properly, but I thought she was the most understandable person out of the entire cast. I guess it was a silly read. I definitely had fun reading it with my husband Jonah during one of our live streams.
I will obliterate this castle and wipe it off the map.
Let's go! Look at that horse! Oh, I love him so much.
I like that he's like 75% bigger in this shot than the last shot of him.
But that said, I wouldn't be able to take the story seriously if my life depended on it. I usually tend to strain to find something enjoyable with these types of comics in order to entertain myself, and while this one had me shitting myself at how absolutely silly and unintentionally goofy it was, I wouldn't say it's competent. I would say reading it with your friends would be a lot of fun though. I guess a proper way to explain my feelings is whelmed. Very, very whelmed.
Dragon Tales, it's almost time for Dragon Tales. Come along, take my hand, let's all go to Dragonland.
This video is brought to you by today's sponsor, Unveil. Unveil is a free-to-use platform for all artists, writers, and creators. If you have been searching for a place where you can share your creations among like-minded individuals, Unveil is the perfect place for you. Here you can easily post your OCs, traits about them, and the world they live in, and so much more. There are so many features Unveil offers to accurately portray your OC to your audience and friends. A new feature Unveil has recently rolled out is Dark Mode. If your pixel-laden eyes are as sensitive as mine are, Dark Mode is here to save us. Other features include adding a gallery for each individual character you have, adding specific traits about your character, and even
After the disgusting money-hungry trio launched their Lunchly product, the entire internet realized it was a big scam, as it was just a way for multi-millionaires to stuff their pockets even more with cash. However, the hero DanTDM single-handedly has managed to completely destroy and sabotage 3 of the biggest YouTubers in the world, MrBeast, KSI, and Logan Paul, and here is how he did it. MrBeast, KSI, and Logan Paul have thrown their hats into the lunch game with Lunchly, aiming to dethrone the long-standing king, Lunchables. But this isn't just about another product launch, it's ignited a firestorm of debate. After the roaring success of Prime Hydration, you might wonder why they're dipping into the lunch market. Is it innovation? Or just the next cash grab? Critics are quick to point out that these creators, already flush with success, might be overstepping for another slice of the pie. But here's where it gets juicy. While they market Lunchly as the healthier, more budget-friendly alternative, promising to outshine Lunchables, the timing couldn't be more ironic. With Prime Hydration facing its own controversies, including lawsuits over lead content, there's a palpable sense of irony in them criticizing Lunchables for similar issues. This isn't just about another product launch. It's a statement, a controversy, and a marketing spectacle. Every YouTuber seems to be jumping on the product bandwagon, from MrBeast's Feastables to countless others, but Lunchly's launch, it's sparking conversations and not just about the product itself. So, Let's dive in. We'll explore why this product has everyone talking, from its health claims to the controversy around its launch timing. But first, let's roll the footage where they unveiled Lunchly to the world.
Lunchly versus Lunchables.
With Lunchly, you get double the amount of liquid.
Prime has no sugar added, more electrolytes, and more B vitamins.
Crunch Bar. Feastables Crunch Bar. Our pizza uses real cheese. Theirs, as it says on their box, is mozzarella pasteurized prepared cheese product. They can't even call it real cheese. We're also 30 less calories, 3 less grams of fat, and 8 less grams of sugar. Turkey Stack 'em, 310 calories.
230 calories.
21 grams of sugar.
Only 7 grams of sugar.
If you look at this close up, you can already tell which one has better ingredients. All right, we'll start off with the Lunchables.
Bro, I'm sorry, that's trash. All right, now we're trying Lunchly. Come on. We're not biased at all, but ours is way better.
Fiesta Nachos. 22 grams of sugar.
10 grams of sugar.
7 grams of protein.
9 grams of protein.
Come in close and look at the queso cheese in Lunchly versus whatever that is. Drip versus stick. I like my cheese drippy, bruh. This is a Lunchly salsa right here. Look at the consistency, the texture. And this is Lunchables. Look, it's watery. I can't even look at that. With 400 milligrams of electrolytes, my God!
And it's available for around $4. Super affordable. Go give it a try.
Oh my God.
The buzz around Lunchly isn't just about its launch, it's the backdrop of controversy with Prime Hydration that's stirring the pot. And here is a video exposing the dark secrets behind this new product launch, disguised as a healthy kids' food choice, which actually has a sad truth behind it.
Lunchly is preying on children. This new food product was created by the regarded brothers, KSI, Mr. Beast, and Nina Agdal's wife, so they can make more money off of kids by selling them their hyped food products, which is basically just candy. I mean, Prime is just a low-quality diet soda disguised as a hydration drink, and Mr. Beast's Feastables candy bar used to be made with high-quality ingredients until they realized that kids don't care about health, but taste, so they changed the ingredients. I don't care about anything else Lunchly has, because I already know it's highly processed garbage.
But let's dive into what Lunchly actually offers. According to CNN, Lunchly packs in Prime a chocolate bar from Feastables and a choice of processed snacks like pizzas, nachos, or turkey with crackers. Now, the pitch here is that it's supposed to be the healthier option, especially for kids, by comparing itself to Lunchables. But let's break this down. It's still processed food aimed at kids who arguably need less processed options in their diets. The claim to fame? More electrolytes from Prime than your average Capri Sun, and less sugar in the chocolate compared to mainstream bars. But here's where it gets tricky. Are kids really in need of extra electrolytes in their daily meals? Unless we're talking about young athletes or kids with specific health needs, the average kid might not benefit from this upgrade in their lunchbox. So, when Lunchly positions itself as healthier, it begs the question, healthier for whom? The general health narrative for kids usually leans towards fresh, whole foods, not just less bad versions of processed snacks. This whole scenario raises an eyebrow, doesn't it? It's not just about the product itself, but how it's being marketed as a choice for kids' health. The controversy surrounding Lunchly didn't just pop up out of nowhere. It ignited with a tweet from Dan TDM, known for his Minecraft content. Dan would quote tweet the Lunchly announcement and say, "What happened to YouTubers, man? I can't not say anything anymore. This is selling stuff for the sake of making money. Simple. How does this benefit their fans? This is selling crap to kids who don't know better than to trust the people who are selling it to them. Do better." Where he voiced his frustration with the direction many YouTubers are taking, from creating content to selling products, seemingly for profit over genuine innovation or benefit to their audience. He questioned the value of products like Lunchly, especially for kids, arguing that they're essentially repackaged processed foods with marketing spins on health and wellness. Logan Paul was quick to respond, "I'll tell you what happened to YouTubers. We spent our lives creating content and building our brands. Now we want to build businesses. You don't say anything when Lunchables faces bans for allegedly containing lead. But when we create a better version, you're upset, then don't eat it." Defending the entrepreneurial spirit of YouTubers who've transitioned from content creators to business moguls. He pointed out the irony in Dan TDM's critique by noting that while Lunchables have faced legal challenges over lead content, it's not entirely fair to cast Lunchly as a hypocritical venture without acknowledging that even Prime Hydration, linked to Lunchly, had faced similar scrutiny. This part of the argument was met with community notes that clarified the misleading nature of Logan's statement, highlighting that the issue of lead wasn't uniquely tied to one product, but was a broader concern across similar offerings. The conversation took a turn when KSI attempted to counter criticism by drawing a comparison between Lunchly and toys associated with Dan TDM. This wasn't well received. The community, including through comments and further community notes, quickly pointed out the nonsensical nature of comparing food products aimed at kids' health to toys intended for entertainment. KSI's defense further muddied the waters when he referenced a sponsorship Dan TDM had with a food box subscription service years ago. However, this comparison was swiftly dismissed as irrelevant due to the singular, sponsored nature of the event and the significant time gap since its occurrence. This entire exchange does more than just highlight a product controversy. It opens up a broader discussion on influencer culture, the ethics of marketing to children, and the responsibilities that come with significant platforms. Here we see creators like Logan Paul, KSI, and Mr. Beast, all with massive followings, trying to navigate the murky waters of product endorsement versus genuine product creation. Their defense mechanisms, aimed at protecting their brands, might have inadvertently done more harm than good. They've shone a spotlight on their business decisions, perhaps revealing a disconnect between their entrepreneurial aspirations and the expectations of their audience for transparency and genuine concern for their well-being. The situation with Lunchly isn't merely about the product itself, but reflects on the influencer's role in society. It's a case study in how creators handle criticism, engage with their community, and how quickly public opinion can sway when these interactions are perceived as defensive or out of touch. What's particularly interesting is how this conversation unfolded in real time, with each rebuttal, defense, and community note adding layers to the narrative. It's clear these creators are deeply invested in their business ventures, but the approach to defending these choices might need a rethink. In an era where every move is scrutinized, not just by peers, but by the very community they've built, this incident underscores the importance of authenticity in influencer marketing. It's not just about what is sold, but how it's sold, especially when it involves the impressionable minds of children. This ongoing saga, filled with humorous retorts and public scrutiny, serves as a reminder that in the age of social media, every product launch, every tweet, and every community interaction is under a microscope. It beckons creators to consider not just the profitability of their ventures, but the long-term impact on their brand's integrity and their relationship with their audience. Okay folks, grab your popcorn because KSI's fanbase has done a complete 180 on him faster than you can say YouTube drama. It all started when Dan TDM pointed fingers at KSI and his crew for pushing Lunchly like it's the next big thing in kiddie cuisine. KSI responded, but there's more juice to this story. There's this video out there that he's been trying to scrub from the internet, like it's a stain on his favorite hoodie. So, KSI's come back to Dan TDM? It's like he looked at the playbook of weak arguments and picked the first one. He's out here comparing toys to junk food like, oh, you sell toys? Well, I sell food that's basically toys for your taste buds. It's the kind of logic that would make a philosopher facepalm. Now, about that prime drink of his, it's getting more legal attention than a celebrity's Twitter rant. Not one, not two, but 3 lawsuits. One's even questioning if it's safer than a science experiment gone wrong. But wait, there's more. He's now linked with Lunchly, essentially turning school lunches into a game of nutritional roulette. It's like he's playing a version of Guess What's in Your Lunch, where the prize is a sugar rush and the consolation prize is, well, more sugar. And let me show you how much of a clown he has made of himself. So of course, Dan TDM would first put out his tweet saying how disappointed he is in YouTubers selling dodgy products to kids. What happened to YouTubers, man? I can't not say anything anymore. This is selling stuff for the sake of making money. Simple. How does this benefit their fans? This is selling crap to kids who don't know better than to trust the people who are selling it to them do better. To which KSI would reply with showing kids toys Dan TDM used to sell. Looks like crap to me.
しぶきを迎えたわけよ雪のように降らせ隠した文字を教えて何もなくしてしまうの時のは数えきれぬほどよ摩擦やに濡れぬうちにもの悲しく散らなければならぬと決めた蝶にはかすか残りが薄やしゃきりとひょいはざくら眩しすぎた空通りかかれば寂しがりあの子を見て頬には涙吊るし後に咲く目を閉じて浮かべたモノクロの景色呼び止めるここにいて君と夢遊んで消せない傷跡優しく撫でてよ慰めて温めて繰り返す無情で孤独をぼやかす偽り真偽の隠しきれずいたずら物音響かせた壊れた時計たち狂った月が笑いかけてる理想のブラウスでごまかしたんじゃ帰れないことせめても二人つないだあの日の影を探し出せたら迷わずに約束君との距離をなくしたものを涙が赤く染めて責め続ける寂しさ募るよ部屋中幻変わりなんていないの滲んだガラス細工暗闇の淵でパズルを集めてひとかけら足りない偽りのメモリー壊れた心さえ狂った月が笑い続ける溢れる感情の波打ち際で選ばされてる夢に絡まる過ちの糸手繰り寄せたら奪われずに守れた君との距離をなくしたものをできるなら今償い方教えて キスの後味二人つないだあの日の笑顔連れて行けたら忘れずに約束君との距離をなくしたものを涙が赤く染めて攻め続ける くって人任せなるルーティン昨日と記憶が的確にね揺れる時のさなかで変われないまま私がいるどんなに願っても叶わない夢なら記憶だけは耳と島根時として討伐起こりうるイレギュラー歩めど前に進めど海に散った涙で甘く煮込んで絡めたスープあんまり綺麗に最後の一粒を飲み干したら死んでしまえ乱れ幻想なくな白浜的と思えこの声が聞こえるか種身も大しこの辞書遠くくらわば最果てまでさあ共に手を取り合って今こそ奏でようくだらない合格相手にしてる暇もないわどんなに願っても埋まらない距離がある記憶だけは行き違いねもう嘆いても笑ってもこれが最後なら忘れよ別れよ私を捨ててしあさってもあさっても生まれ変わりゃしませんそれでも無情にやってくのです一粒を飲み干せばこの扉をくぐればあの朝日が昇れば始まりの音楽を始まりの音楽真っ白なキャンバスに色を乗せて描いた虹の橋はあなたと続いたの曖昧な記憶純真無垢な
探していた最初の誓い引き寄せたその体首筋へ目印を表裏並べたらエゴと友情荒々しく散らかして毒牙のように踊らせるしびれ出す感角で爪を立てなぞるたび狂い壊したくなる君で遊ぶ時を止めて錆びつくナイフバッティ
してたの幼さ残る背中とあどけない記憶あれからも幾年が過ぎてずいぶん大人になってふとした時いつか見た君の涙が愛しくなって最後に言えなかったさよならが今でもあどけない記憶と凍りついたままで忘れない土地があった振り返る人混み顔を上げた空に色とりどりに染められてく二人見た花火を暗闇さ 花びら模様一人なだけ水面にくべてくべて足元変えて距離など埋めてすべて脈を打つくたらごりよ
Jubilee has been at the forefront of political discussion on YouTube for the past half-decade, bringing together people from all walks of life to discuss controversial topics from their point of view in an effort to come to a middle ground.
Everybody gets to live the same
Tell
way
me
as
what
you.
rights we don't have, what laws that we don't have.
Girl, I'm gonna send you.
No, I want to know. I want to know.
Say it now.
No,
if you're gonna sit here
What
and tell
rights?
us that we're missing rights, that we are not
already
allowed
said
to
that.
What
exist.
do
No,
gay and
tell
trans
us.
rights?
You're equating some minor inconveniences in your privileged life to
Why would you assume my life is privileged?
unsupported.
But why would you assume my life is privileged, though? Why would, I mean, I don't say that about you. Why would you assume my life is privileged?
I'm privileged.
Okay, that's fine, but why would you assume my life is privileged?
For one, you're a man.
However, as Jubilee grew larger and increasingly influential, their transparency moved in the opposite direction, secretly inviting on professional conservatives while framing them as regular everyday people, normalizing their opinions. Is Jubilee more one-sided than we're made to believe? And if so, whose side are they on? Jubilee has made quite a name for themselves in the past 5 years or so, slowly taking the place of BuzzFeed in their style of videos, but with a much heavier slant towards politics. They've grown alongside similar channels like Cut, and have even inspired parody copycat channels like Jesser and Beta Squad.
He's got a black name, and he's trying to change it by calling it Astill.
Why don't you just say like William or something?
Yeah. Okay, William.
That's his name.
Jubilee grew in popularity at a time when politics moved beyond mainstream and became a sort of personality trait, where people were almost expected to have a political opinion and be able to argue for it. So as political discussion grew in popularity, Jubilee capitalized on said popularity, hosting political discussions revolving around the most heated controversial topics. Topics like atheism versus Christianity, pro-choice versus anti-choice, rich versus poor, pro-gun versus gun control, and immigrants versus Trump supporters, outright profiting off controversial and at times hateful political discussion.
Before we start this video, we just want to acknowledge that this is obviously a very sensitive topic. This is also a very real and current conversation that we're seeing happen within our communities and all around the country. So our goal with this video was to just earnestly portray various perspectives that we were hearing, and not necessarily that we condone these perspectives, but to understand why people are feeling the way they might be. As always, please seek out experts as you're making your own decisions. And above all else, we want to encourage you to see each other's humanity and feel more empathy.
Jubilee is very good at promoting their content and are extremely lenient when it comes to copyright, as they encourage streamers and YouTubers to react to their content, ultimately bringing in even more profits from controversial opinions and the spread of those opinions to fresh ears.
Yeah, I don't know. I've kind of gone on and off of Ben Shapiro. But I like Steven Crowder. I like Dr. Robert Malone, Hank Pecker. There's a lot of different streamers and media outlets that I think do push. You should be able to choose.
Are you joking? Dude, he's so good! He's so good!
Hey Hassan, we know you're going to react to this video, so we want to invite you to be in an episode of Middle Ground.
This is crazy! I can't believe they did this, dude. I can't. They broke the fourth wall. You're not supposed to do this.
However, when you're not pushing down on one side, but rather propping up both sides as equal and trying to achieve some sort of middle ground, you can very well end up causing more harm than good. In the 2024 NBA playoffs, after having their greatest season in 20 years and sweeping Kevin Durant's Phoenix Suns in the first round, the Minnesota Timberwolves, led by Anthony Edwards, matched up against the Denver Nuggets in the Western Conference semifinals. After a close Game 1, ultimately ending in a win for the Minnesota Timberwolves, in Game 2 they were even more dominant, gaining a 17-point lead on the Denver Nuggets before halftime. In an act of either sabotage or childish frustration, Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets threw a towel and a heat pack onto the court during play.
Now, was something thrown on the court here? That was a heat pack. That came from the bench. That was a heat pack for sure.
Kirk, do you think the league will maybe I don't know, suspend Jamal Murray for Game 3 for throwing the pack on the floor? He obviously wasn't penalized last night within the game, but will we just get a suspension? What's your gut say there?
I kind of
My gut says no.
Jamal Murray was not punished during the game. Not a suspension, not even a technical foul was called against Murray. His only punishment was given days after, when NBA Commissioner Adam Silver decided not to suspend Jamal Murray and cause him to miss a playoff game, but to fine him $100,000. In the days following these events, fans and media alike accused Adam Silver of prioritizing TV ratings over the safety of players and referees, putting the financial performance of his business over the integrity of the game of NBA basketball. So just like Adam Silver deciding not to suspend Jamal Murray for the sake of NBA playoff ratings, Jubilee allows their social experiments and roundtable discussions to be purposefully manufactured and skewed in a way to prioritize their performance on YouTube. And I'll prove it, with hours of evidence coming straight from the source, all culminating in a disaster of a Jubilee Middle Ground episode. I want to start off by pointing out that the concept of a show called Middle Ground, where both sides of the political spectrum are meant to come together and through discussion find middle ground, is already faulty. First of all, they don't have on both sides of the political spectrum. Jubilee brings on both sides of a nuanced political discussion. One side is typically conservative, the other side is typically liberal. Now, while these two political ideologies tend to disagree with one another, they're not each side of the political spectrum, as liberals often share many of the same opinions as conservatives, specifically when it comes to the free market and the military-industrial complex. Like this comment pointed out, saying they want to see a leftists versus liberals episode of Middle Ground, as no one seems to know the difference. Not even Jubilee. And the second reason as to why coming to a middle ground between two opposing perspectives could be problematic is because one side of the political spectrum is often incorrect. Now, there is something to be said for bringing random people together with different worldviews so we can understand why we have said worldviews, and ultimately discover our shared struggles as workers in America. That would be great, but that's not what they're doing. These aren't normal everyday people off the street. Some of them are, but rather, it seems Jubilee may be hiring professionals, often slanted heavily to the right-wing point of view, professional spokespeople for hate. In a classic episode of Jubilee's Middle Ground, contestants are presented as people with opinions, nothing more, nothing less.
Middle Ground is a social experiment that brings humans with opposing beliefs together. These discussions may contain viewpoints that are the result of misinformation. Remember to seek out experts and to be critical of your own biases while forming an opinion.
Please see the humanity in each participant.
Yet these people don't just have opinions, they have scripts. Let's have a look at Jubilee's Middle Ground episode 121, Liberal versus Conservative Lesbians.
The LGBTQIA plus community has moved too far to the left.
Oof, girl. How many letters are there? How many? 100?
By the way, shout out all my gay Minneapolitans. Hope you're having a blessed Pride weekend. This is the very first clip of Jubilee Middle Ground episode 121.
Everybody gets to live the same
Tell
way
me
as
what
you.
rights we don't have.
This is Sasha, or better known as basedbabe.usa on Instagram. She is a self-described fiery Latina fighting for truth, and is the first lady of Gays Against Groomers. Her entire media presence is dedicated to transphobia.
What laws that we don't have.
Girl, I'm gonna send you.
No, I want to know. I want to know.
Say it now.
No,
If you're going to sit here
What
and tell
rights?
us that we're missing rights,
This is Becky, a patriot truth seeker. She may just be a fitness instructor, but nearly her entire media presence is dedicated to homophobia.
that we are not
already
allowed
said
to
that.
exist.
What do
No,
gay
so
and
tell
trans
us.
rights?
And this is Amber Whittington, an actress who talks about being lesbian sometimes and posts just normal stuff as a public figure. In this episode of Middle Ground, there are a total of 8 women, 4 conservative, 4 liberal. Of the 4 liberal women, 3 of them have a social media presence, but none of them use their social media to push their cause or to discuss being a liberal lesbian woman. Julia is a large YouTuber, but none of her content is about being a liberal lesbian. In fact, her recent video was about divorcing an old woman to begin dating an old man. I'm sort of confused by this, but it proves my point. Kennedy has a large TikTok following with her twin sister, but They just make vlog-style content. Amber has a large social media following, but her entire career isn't about being a liberal lesbian. She's just an actress who makes some social media content about being gay. And she didn't even promote her socials in the description, so she clearly doesn't have a desire to boost her social media presence. Nazreen isn't in the description either, so I'm just gonna assume they also don't care about their social media presence. However, each and every one of the 4 conservative lesbians has made a name for themselves on social media and beyond simply by pushing anti-LGBTQ propaganda as lesbian women.
Just a little PSA for all you trans folks out there, okay? All of this trans hate is gonna go away whenever, number 1, you stop trying to convince people that objective reality is false, and number 2, you stop trying to talk to people's children. I'm just saying, nobody had an issue until you created an issue, and now y'all run around like a bunch of little victims from the issues that you created.
Sadly, in recent years, the acceptance for the gay and trans community has gone down, and it's really not that hard to figure out why. If our community would just leave the kids alone, nobody cares. Nobody cares what you do as adults, how you live your life. We fought to get married, and you're able to do that. And right now, there is an attack on children. What we're teaching them in schools, what we're exposing to them, and what we're indoctrinating them with. And it all falls back to our community. We need to take accountability on the war on children and just leave the kids alone. It's really not that hard.
You're non-binary, but you're still equally a man.
See, that doesn't make sense. Like, these people will make it more and more difficult for themselves and simultaneously make it more difficult for society to understand them, and then continuously claim more oppression and more victim points because they're less and less understood.
That is such a good point.
It is a perpetual circle, and they feed off of their own energy, off their own negativity.
They're deliberately confusing people and then complaining about
100%.
people confusing them.
Except for one. However, she is a self-described new content creator, so just give her some time.
I have a bone to pick with headlines like this. This is such a major issue right now, as we'll see in our upcoming Jubilee episode. Anti-LGBTQ RSPP poo-poo laws are being written right now. No. There's 500 laws banning men from beating women in women's sports, and banning literal children from irreversible surgery and medical treatments. How many of those laws are simply groomer no grooming, or don't get naked in public? Which also applies to straight people as well. Like, do better, media. RSPP poo-poo.
RSPP poo-poo. RSPP poo-poo. RSPP poo-poo.
Laws are being written right now. Sticking to the theme, let's also take a quick look at Jubilee Middle Ground episode 113, Conservative versus Liberal Gays.
Hey, girl. Always me.
Sorpresa, sorpresa.
I'm just kidding.
I was listening in, and Clarkson kind of made the point that the government really shouldn't be in the business of teaching your children about your sexuality. No one taught us how to be gay. Who taught you how to be gay? Anybody?
Of the 4 liberal gay men in this video, 3 have a social media presence, but only 1 uses their social media to talk exclusively about being a liberal gay man. Kai just makes music. Ryan is a politician, sort of, and Tyshawn has his social media private, so there's not much to go off of there. Of the 4 conservative gay men in this video, Amir is a popular YouTuber who exclusively spreads conservative talking points. Clarkson is a popular figure on Instagram and YouTube who makes content completely centered around conservative politics. Mario is a gay man who proudly passed a bill in Nebraska denying children 18 and younger from receiving gender-affirming care, which is proven to reduce suicide risk in transgender and non-binary youth by 73%. Mario has single-handedly caused you-know-what.
I passed one of those laws in Nebraska that protects children under the age of 18 from receiving gender-affirming care and hormones. Because I've seen...
And you're proud of that.
Yes, I am very proud of that.
I am so ashamed of you.
And Zane is a mental health and disability advocate. I honestly don't know what to think of this guy. He seems sweet, sided many times with the liberal opinions, isn't transphobic, and at 50 years old, this man is killing it. That's all I can say. Now, I'm not denying the fact that they absolutely invite on professional leftists, professionals in their left-wing political ideology. But it is rare. Like in the communism versus capitalism episode of Middle Ground. It's quite easy for Jubilee to go out onto the street and find an average American willing to defend capitalism. It's not so easy to find an American willing to defend communism, so instead of finding some random person on the street, they went after respected, educated people of that ideology, like Eddie Liger of Midwestern Marx.
I think one of the main misconceptions about communism is that it's just making everybody equally poor.
when Marx and Engels wrote repeatedly that the first step under communism is increasing the productive forces. In the US, over 80% of our population is living paycheck to paycheck. If you provide people's basic needs, if you invest in economic growth and in jobs and in infrastructure rather than investing in endless war and massacring Muslim people in Gaza, you're going to make this country a lot stronger. You're going to make the people a lot more stable here.
But isn't it strange that they give some of the nastiest beliefs the benefit of the doubt by having an expert pitch those nasty beliefs? Not only to the individuals on the show, but to the audience watching the Jubilee video, ultimately causing these hateful opinions and talking points to spread if they're not adequately pushed down on and proven false by the opposing participants on the show. Right-wing propaganda outlets are heavily backed and funded. I'm talking coaching, word choice analysis, psychological analysis, all to make the crazy realities of the capitalist world and the explanation of said world seem completely tame and normal, while people on the left just kind of have to figure it out, read books, learn how to debate their beliefs. There are no billionaires funding the coaching of left-wing propagandists, while the billionaire Koch brothers are heavily funding right-wing propaganda outlets like the Daily Wire and Turning Point USA. What Jubilee is doing is not only equalizing the two opinions, but at times making the conservative opinions seem more palatable by allowing that opinion to be backed by educated debaters, not educated enough to have the proper opinion, but educated in how to defend their faulty opinion. Just look at the Jubilee Middle Ground episode titled Mass Shooting Survivors vs. NRA Members.
It seems like the other side tries to push, like, as if you don't care. And I think we care very, very much. People think that, people who own guns just want to shoot things. I mean, personally, I'd be terrified if I ever had to use it in self-defense.
Now, no disrespect to the mass shooting survivors, because I'm sure they're very intelligent, but who do you think is more equipped to discuss gun culture in America and make their side seem tame? A person who got shot at and is now traumatized by guns? Or a person who is a paid member of a rifle association? A proud bearer of arms who has been fed justification their entire life as to why they need to hoard a bunch of ARs in their closet and are more than prepared to argue against gun control. Jubilee could have easily decided to do an episode titled Gun Control versus Anti-Gun Control. People who support the owning of firearms versus people who think we need more gun control. Yet Jubilee decided to make an episode titled Mass Shooting Survivors versus National Rifle Association Members. Imagine if instead of making an episode of Middle Ground titled Pro-Slavery versus Anti-Slavery, they made an episode titled Slave Owners versus Former Slaves. Or instead of an episode titled Israel Supporters versus Palestine Supporters, they made an episode titled Palestinians versus IDF Soldiers. Oh wait, they already kind of did that. Jubilee very clearly seems to be inviting on professional conservatives who have made a living pushing their conservative politics on social media to debate more often than not basic everyday liberals without media training. Now obviously there's a very clear explanation for this. Jubilee is filmed in Los Angeles, California, a place that is typically seen as more liberal than conservative, as most urban areas around the country are. So finding a liberal trans woman might be a bit easier than finding a conservative trans woman, ultimately leading you to rely on social media to find such a person. Now, as mentioned earlier, they also do this with liberals, hosting professional liberals and making them out to be normal people discussing their opinions. But pay to win doesn't always go both directions. Sometimes the professional liberals push false points. People labeled as liberals or people on the left spreading conservative propaganda.
I think for reparations, if you can find specific instances of somebody being actually deprived of something, whether specific instances of the 40 acres and a meal promise, or whether you can find specific cases of Chinese people building railroads or Irish people or whatever, people being deprived of things, that's okay. But otherwise, yeah, it's a logistical nightmare. There's no possible way that we'd be able to do it well.
Let's have a look at a different Jubilee show, an old episode of Spectrum. Do all feminists think the same?
So for you, it is the ability to create life, and that's basically what makes you a woman.
Femininity and womanhood is so much more than just, getting dressed up and putting on makeup and just the way I feel. It's who I am on a biological level.
Now, feminism is broadly defined as the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. Feminism tends to be associated with progressive movements, as traditionally women have been seen as an accessory to a man, someone not meant to express opinions or hold a job outside of the house. And conservatism is entirely based around traditional beliefs, while progressivism is based on breaking those traditional beliefs and achieving emancipation. Now, conservatives can be feminists. Sort of. While a conservative woman may be pro-feminist, pro-woman, and seek equality between sexes, she may also disagree with the movement's inclusion of trans women or the movement's stance on abortion. Now, do these beliefs kind of trump her efforts to seek equality between sexes and thus make her not a feminist? I would say so. And that's the case with this episode of Spectrum. Conservative women calling themselves feminists while also not really understanding what a feminist is, and while pushing dangerous rhetoric about other women, i.e., trans women, ultimately diminishing what it means to be a feminist as they present themselves as such by being an inadequate and frankly incorrect representation of feminism.
I'll read off a list of public figures and you'll go to your left if you believe the person to be a feminist, or the right if you don't think they're a feminist. Kim Kardashian.
I wouldn't say that she isn't a feminist. I don't think that's her number one thing.
She went from doing her show and the whole like sex scandal thing to like, you know, now she's working in law and civil rights, and she's done the whole family thing. Ultimately, I think that Kim Kardashian is a woman that has like done what she's wanted to do.
Kim Kardashian. Feminist? I wouldn't say so. Powerful woman who uses her power and influence to get people out of prison and off death row? Absolutely. And I won't take that away from her.
Amy Coney Barrett.
Amy Coney Barrett, in my opinion, is like the epitome of a feminist. She's literally like a Supreme Court justice in like the highest court of the land. And she totally disproves the narrative that women have to choose between having a career and a family.
I don't really agree with her a lot on her political stances, but I think more so as just being a role model for women to be on a level of the Supreme Court where it's primarily dominated by men.
Amy Coney Barrett, the epitome of being a feminist, a Supreme Court justice. One of those things is correct. Now, I know we have short memory loss, but is it really that short? In 2022, Amy Coney Barrett was instrumental in the overturning of Roe v. Wade, eliminating the federal constitutional right to an abortion, which, according to The Guardian, caused a 13-year-old girl in Mississippi to give birth to a boy after she was raped as well as impregnated by a stranger and then was unable to get an abortion.
J.K. Rowling.
3 years ago, I would have said yes, and there's still a lot of reasons I would. She was a single mom, she wrote all the books, she became a billionaire. The reason I would say kind of no now is her just kind of weird anti-trans zealotry she's gotten involved in that kind of undercuts a lot of her other feminist stuff.
Yes, trans women are women. So by spreading hate towards trans women, you are not a feminist. So by the same standard, these feminists are not feminists at all.
Trans women are women. 3, 2, 1, go.
I know, being a woman, that there are certain things that we have to deal with as women that people who are not, biologically women don't have to deal with. I mean, we have to deal with having our periods and go through that really awkward stage when we're 13, and people who are, trans women don't have to go through that.
Recently, however, Jubilee's whole guest booking process of hiring professional spokespeople for hate completely backfired on them. Because when you hire these hateful people and instruct them to focus on one topic and one topic only, they cannot restrain themselves. They cannot speak their minds without also blurting out off-topic, incredibly hateful bigotry. On May 5th, 2024, Jubilee released Middle Ground episode 133. Fit men versus fat men.
Do you think just being in a fat body and being in the public space encourages obesity? Yes.
Shame is what led me to an eating disorder. What we're looking for is stability.
That's your fault.
It's
See, the
an
problem is that you're a
amalgamation.
professional victim.
Would you agree, looking at his physique, he's at a perfectly, I would say, maybe healthy?
No. He's definitely overweight, definitely obese.
And for whatever reason, instead of just having on a bunch of random himbos from the gym down the street, they decided to invite on professional woman hater, homophobe, transphobe, and self-described alpha male Myron Gaines of the infamous Fresh and Fit podcast.
So you say you're not anti-Semitic. So here's the clip this is the one that he erased from the other day? This is from YouTube, and then you can tell me if this is anti-Semitic or not. You're sitting with Nick Fuentes, by the way, a known neo-Nazi. You agree with that, right? He's a neo-Nazi.
No, I wouldn't agree with you on that.
Okay, he's a great, upstanding guy. There's nothing anti-Semitic about him. Let's watch this clip.
He's gone. I already told the ADL. He's fucking gone. These anti-Semites are gone.
What is this you're dressed up as? And what does 6 million died refer to?
I can't see what you're showing.
Oh, really?
You know what? I'm really glad that you brought that up, Ethan. You know what I have here? Mexican hat.
Are you comparing wearing a... Oh my God, bro.
I make fun of everybody. I got hats for every single race, every single religion.
Now, before we dive deeper into this episode, let's first watch the reaction from one of the other contestants after he had to endure Myron Gaines.
Hey friends, you may have noticed that I was on Jubilee's most recent episode of The Middle Ground, Fit Men versus Fat Men. A lot of clips are starting to come out. You might have seen it on YouTube or any of the other social medias. I just want to say and address why I won't be sharing any clips from that at all. When I was invited on the show and they said, we want you to be on Jacked versus Fat, that was the original title. I remember my first question was, I was unaware the two sides had any problems with one another. But I was excited to have a thoughtful and meaningful conversation where two sides can learn from one another and share in empathy and respect and learn and grow and disagree civilly. However, I was completely unaware that a certain individual had been invited to be a part of this episode. And the main reason I will not be sharing any clips from this show is because I do not wish to name or further platform such a truly horrible individual. The cast was unaware of who else was in the cast until the moment we had filmed, and I know myself and several others would have refused to have taken part having known that he was there. But we tried to keep it professional, keep the conversation going, and not get too sidetracked into his hateful, misogynistic, transphobic, homophobic ideology. I think it is shameful of the producers of Jubilee to have invited this man on and platformed him for the world to see to spout such hate. I want to shout out to the other 7 guys on the panel. Everyone came there respectfully with open hearts, and a beautiful chance was ruined by a platform rage baiting their fans. No matter who you are or where you come from, you are worthy of love, you are worthy of respect, you are worthy of autonomy, you are worthy of living. And Jubilee, the fact that you platformed an individual who espoused eugenics on your fucking program and invoked the use of concentration camps is an absolute shame.
So here's why Zach had that reaction. While Myron starts off pretty bold and to the point, saying that being fat is unacceptable.
Well, it's unacceptable to be fat. Okay. That's a great start. Being fat is unacceptable because you control every single morsel of food that goes into your mouth. Okay. It shows a lack of discipline, it shows a lack of character, it shows a lack of temperance, and when you're fat, it's an outward manifestation of your inadequacies.
He quickly turns to a discussion about shaming and how we need to shame more people in the United States. Not just fat people, but also sluts.
No, we need to bring shaming back. Okay. We need to bring shaming back in so many other regards besides obesity. We need to do it with sluts. We need to shame fat people. We need to shame everybody because shame has been one of the strongest defenses against degeneracy and human fuck-ups.
You had a personal experience you wanted to share. You said you used to be overweight. Now you're not.
Oh yeah. So I did an experiment back in 2015 where I bulked for almost 2 years, and I got up to 250 pounds.
It took bro 2 years to get up to 250 pounds. Bro is a shrimp. Put that man in prison and he's slipping right out of those bars.
I am naturally this way. This is with working out 4 or 5 times a week.
That's not true.
This is 100% true, bro.
No, bro. No,
come to the gym with me.
It's not natural at all because at the end of the day, if you don't lose weight, by definition, you're not in a calorie deficit. If you're not in a calorie deficit, then you're going to either maintain or gain weight. And that's the problem is that people don't track their calories.
And that's true, but people burn at their resting metabolic rate a different set of calories.
Doesn't matter. Let's not get too granular right now. Ragini, it's going to be one of those episodes, right?
Yes, it is going to be one of those episodes. One of those episodes where you recklessly invite on a professional spokesperson for hate and regret it immediately. But do you even regret it? I mean, this video got 6 million views, way more than the typical Middle Ground episode. And it's not because Myron Gaines is in the video. It's because his insanely stupid opinions are on full display in the video.
And the thing is that most fat people, not all, but most, have never even seen their abs. They've never seen what their body is capable of. They've never been actually happy happy with their physique. And once you get that taste, you're never going to want to go back. And then on top of that, you're going to want to go ahead and tell all those fat asses that you were once friends with, you need to get in shape. This is awesome. But the reality is we live in this crazy world where we coddle fat people, we coddle idiots, we coddle morons. I'm going to lock these dudes up in a concentration camp where we're going to get them healthy food, we're going to get them exercising, and I'm looked at as crazy.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I guess there's a distinction between having opinions about how COVID was handled and genuinely believing that all fat people should be in a concentration camp.
Yes, a concentration camp. Let me be clear. I'm talking about a concentration camp where they're concentrating on diet and exercise.
Before we end this video and go our separate ways, I want to make a few things very clear. Jubilee, at the end of the day, and the shows they produce, Middle Ground, Spectrum, Odd One Out, is purely entertainment, and you shouldn't see it as anything beyond that. While Jubilee is framing their videos, especially Middle Ground, as being a raw, unscripted, unedited conversation between two opposing sides, they aren't doing some double-blind study to determine the psychological makeup of a sample group. They're producing YouTube videos about very controversial and heated topics that are meant to produce controversial and heated responses, reactions, feedback. They're not trying to bridge the gap between two opposing perspectives in order to find middle ground and come to some sort of mutual understanding. They're producing YouTube videos that are meant to be reacted to, meant to elicit some sort of reaction. Jubilee is not trying to find peace between two opposing perspectives, but rather they're using two opposing perspectives to create more discourse, to create more views and clicks and eyes on their content, ultimately to make more money. Now, is that a bad thing? Well, that's subjective. Money is how our current society operates, and businesses like Jubilee need to make money to stay in operation. But is Jubilee being irresponsible with their platform and potentially causing the spread and platforming of hateful ideas to young ears ready to take it all in? 100%. By equalizing two opinions on a subject where only one opinion is the humane opinion, you're platforming bigotry, normalizing bigotry. And by inviting on professional spokespeople for said bigotry, you're making hate and hateful rhetoric even more accessible and palatable than it already very well is. Thank you for watching North Star Radio. Peace and love. Free Palestine. Jubilee has been at the forefront